Hey everybody, Christian from Treasure Town here, and in my hand I've got 10 $1 bills. Now that's 10 bucks, not nothing, but it's not too much money. But what if I told you that in some cases I could be holding thousands of dollars? Well, today we're going to be learning about $1 bills that are worth at least $1,000. I did a previous video with some similar ones, but today we're going to be getting a full, fresh slate of 12 different $1 bills that sold for over $1,000 at auction. They're rare, they're collectible, and often you can find some of the ones we'll go over in your change. So whether that means getting it out of an ATM or just getting it back in change and flipping it over, sometimes something happens to the back of the note often and everybody's just transacting with it and looking at the front of the note. So there's so much stuff to find. I'll take you through a quick PowerPoint presentation, but these are 12 $1 bills worth tons of money that you need to be aware of. And here's the first of the errors we'll be discussing today, and I really like this one because it's well worn, so it's very fine. It was out there in circulation for a long time and nobody noticed it. It's a mismatched prefix and suffix, so often you want to look for numbers that don't match up in terms of the numbers, but here it's an AC block and this is KG, so that's totally the wrong situation. This one sold all the way back in 2003 for $4,890, but again, this one looks like it saw a bunch of different transactions, went through a lot of hands, and somebody ended up making an astute find and sold it for quite a bit. This third print misalignment is a similar, or not really similar because it's just so miscut, but the third print is sort of on point. It's been properly, I guess, printed, but the underlying paper, the second printing and the first printing is not. So they're misaligned with each other, and this one sold for $3,600, but really pretty dramatic here. Sometimes it's a little shifted, but when it's this dramatic, it commands huge premiums, as that did. Here, there's a missing front printing. This one sold for literally $5,460, and it seems like a really high amount for just people not having the front printing, but what happened was, likely what happened, is that two sheets were fed together into the printing machine, and so there would also be a corresponding missing back from a different sheet, depending on where that is. You know, it'd be really cool to have them together, but in this case, they are not together, and this one again sold for $5,000. There's also the inverted Hawaii overprint. If you're not familiar, the United States, when they were fighting World War II against the Japanese in the Pacific, were worried that Hawaii would be overtaken and that the Japanese would have American cash, so they made a lot of Hawaii notes that would immediately become worthless if the island of Hawaii was taken over. But they fed the sheet. They would do like a fourth overprint after the rest of it to notate that it was from Hawaii and was this type, and on the back they would put Hawaiian letters, but in this case they misprinted Hawaii. They had it 180 degrees rotated or inverted, and this sold for $7,050 because it's really quite a rare error, and I think it commands that. Not something you're going to find in change at all, but just so cool that I had to include it. This one did see a tiny bit of circulation and was an offset printing of the obverse to the reverse. So this one also seems like it's like a cross-hatched pattern, which is unusual in these sorts of errors, but there's an additional inverted Washington that's made its way onto the back of the note. This sold for $1,560 more recently at an auction, but just something really cool that I wanted to point out. There's also a retained obstruction, and we have a few different retained obstruction errors here. I didn't focus on it in the first $1 bill errors that I did, but there's some very valuable ones, so that's why I wanted to sort of separate them for this one. And this one seems to be like some tape or like a paper mache, some sort of crinkled up object that's clear and was on top of the note as it was struck, but it stayed on the note, and that makes it so much more valuable when the obstructions are retained. If they fall off, the premiums maybe are going to be more towards the hundreds of dollars range, but here it's in the thousands, 4,110. There's a test note, so when they're getting the ink to be at the proper amount to print on a bunch of bills, they make ones with different amounts of ink. This one is well over inked. $2,880 was the price because this should just knock it out of the mint. It's not something that is designed to be released. They're supposed to be destroyed, so this one was rare. I really like these. This one was circulated a good bit. It's in a 40, so that means that it didn't see a ton of wear, but people didn't pay really close attention, and these notes traveled together. This is one of the bookends, so that's why there's no error on the rightmost note, but it's the consecutive serial number, the GH, and 445 here is 446. But that second printing is super. It's doubled. It's not where it should be, so maybe the note didn't move properly and received a second printing, something like the third overprint with the treasury seal and the serial number. That is separately affixed, so that's why it's not doubled, but it's a really nice example. This sold for $3,290. A little bit of a premium because there's something consecutive, but that it's not like they're each $1,600 notes. Here is a more impressive retained obstruction, in my opinion. It's like a piece of tape with some cardboard somehow made its way and receives the Fed Reserve seal in one of the 11s and has stayed on. So really impressive, a little suspicious, but yeah, $7,475 for this retained obstruction. Another type of full flood. So this is interesting because if we look back, there's no flood in terms of the over-inking, but here the test has the flood and sort of migrates away from the original rectangle. This one sells for $2,585, so I figured it was different enough to have it as two separate notes. Then we've got this super cool additional overprint. So like I was saying before, there's the doubled second printing where you saw double lettering. This time you see the doubled seal, you see the doubled Series 1935E, the treasury signatures, and things were done a little bit differently back then. This was a 1935 note. Again, I put it more towards the end just because it's more of an interest thing than it's something you're actually going to find. But it also has the doubled serial number all in blue, and there's a BEP rejection mark, so somebody had notated it and made the mark on it, but it still made its way out of the mint and sold for a pretty, I think, reasonable, given how rare it is, $8,225. Our last note of the day is going to be one of the more expensive ones, a retained obstruction, another little bit of sort of brown, maybe paper or cardboard or something, but I find this super cool because it shifted a little bit despite being retained as an obstruction. So it originally was not covering up something like the Washington right there, but it was covering that third, for the third printing, the H, the second H in this one serial number. It was also covering up the treasury seal and this 5, and then this shifted slightly, and you can see that. So I think that's an extra cool part. And again, this one's going to sell for $8,225. So super valuable $1 bills. I always think it's so cool just to see some of the things that are out there. Some of them totally unattainable. Others, it's not super unfeasible to find one in your pocket change. So why not take a closer look and see if you can't find something that you could either hold on to as a valuable treasure or sell and have a nice chunk of change in your pocket. Thanks for watching the video. I'd encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel to stay updated. I've also got Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, so you can follow me there. TreasureTownYT.com is the main channel website. Definitely give that a visit. I've got a lot of information about me up there and the channel. CoinGrabBag.com as well currently redirects there, but it's some good opportunities for very fair grab bags, both made by me and other sellers. A lot of different options, so that's a good way to support. There's also TreasureTownCoins.com. In the future, my coin dealing operation will be done out of that website. CoinMeltPrice.com for updates on the melt prices of your coins, both US and world. A lot of resources in that website. And then CoinsMetalsCards.com being developed right now as a marketplace and news source for coins, metals, cards, and collectibles in general. So I'll see you on my future videos. Looking forward to seeing you there, and hope you have a good day.